Hello everybody, I am Ulrich with Fix It Auto, and today we're going to be reassembling the front end of my car. Now I already got the passenger side done, and now what's left to do is just the front driver's side. I went through, did a little bit of rust repair using a wire wheel, and I also painted the caliper and some of the other components in order to make them look nice. And now we move on to the spindle in order to get that assembled. And here's my freshly painted spindle. Since none of my auto parts store had it in stock, I went out and bought a bearing press kit, which I'll be sure to link down in the description below for those that want to purchase the exact same kit, and I'll show you how to use it. So this kit that I purchased came with a new wheel bearing and hub. And the first thing that we're going to need to do is to press on this bearing onto the steering knuckle or spindle. So we're just going to flip this over, check to see if the bearing fits correctly. And this is what a bearing kit typically looks like. You'll find lots of different adapters, these different rings. So what we're going to want to do is we're going to choose an adapter that fits right around the ring, perfectly around the ring of the wheel bearing. Has to line up perfectly in order for it to work. So this is going to be our correct adapter. Then on the other side, we're going to have to find a ring that fits just around the outside edge, giving you enough room to be able to press this on there. This is the correct adapter that I'm going to be using. And then you're going to have to locate this, which you see has multiple layers that can actually fit onto the inside without wiggling. So this is the correct adapter for this. And then of course it's going to include a big bolt with 2 washers in order to get it to fit on there. So we're going to start with these 2. Place the spindle with the bearing right on there. Put this little plate on with the bulge sticking up. And what we need to do is we need to drop this right down the middle. And then we're going to locate this piece, which just threads through the other side. And just thread this in. We're going to have a wrench in one side just to hold the nut in place. And then we're just going to tighten it using another wrench. And you want to make sure that the bearing is going in straight. If it starts to go in at an angle, then you want to take it out as quickly as possible and redo it. And you'll want to just keep on going until it bottoms out. And you'll know when it bottoms out when you can't turn it anymore. It becomes impossible to turn. Just like that. Once you have this on, then we can attach our wheel seal. You just place it on there, and with a hammer, just lightly tap it in. Make sure you go around and make sure it's well seated. Now is also a good time to put on the dust shield. So just align those holes. And then get the bolts in. And since these bolts often get rust welded, I like to put a little bit of anti-seize on the bolts. You don't need much. That way if you have to take them off in the future, then it won't be such a big pain. And next we need to press the hub on. So we just need to put it in place. Find the ring that fits on the inside of the hub without hitting the studs. And then find the plate to go on top. And then on the other side, you want to make sure this is in there since that often pops out. And then put this, the same adapter that you put on the back of the steering knuckle, back into place. And then feed the bolt through. On my application, I had to take off the washers because it wasn't big enough. And then attach this on. And then you just repeat the same process of tightening it until it bottoms out. And again, you'll know it's ready when it becomes impossible to turn. And then you'll want to make sure that it moves freely, which that is nice and smooth. Then we turn it around. Make sure you push it in far enough so that way it's below this little recessed lighting, so that way you can put in your snap ring. Make sure that that snaps in. Then you grab your last wheel seal and then just tap that in. There we go. And now this is ready to go back in the car. So we are going to start with the sway bar end links. So we're just going to adjust these so that way they get pretty close to fitting. And then I'm going to get a pry bar underneath until eventually I can get the entire end link in where it's supposed to go, just like that. Then get the nuts on there, just right before it touches, Get some medium strength thread locker. Let's get a little bit on the threads. Get a wrench on one side. And then torque these bolts down to 15 pound-feet. If you have Zerk fittings, now's a good time to grease them. You only have to pump in enough until it just barely starts expanding or comes out just like that. Wipe out the excess. And also be mindful that sometimes there's two Zerk fittings, so make sure to grease up both. Next we move on to the lower ball joint. So we'll feed these through the hole. Get the washer in. Then the nut. Get the removable thread locker onto the threads. And then get the washer and bolt in. And then get these all torqued down to 94 pound-feet of torque. Then we attach the steering knuckle back on. Get the lower ball joint in. We got to make sure to get our CV axle back in. Make sure to get it through the splines. If it doesn't fit, then rotate it just a little bit. And then get it to go all the way in. Get it to go back on the strut. And then get the bolt started. Then get the nuts in. Get some medium strength thread locker onto the threads. Get these all the way in. Be sure to get your tie rod end in as well. Get the castle nut started. Get some medium strength thread locker in. Be sure to get the nut started and get some removable thread locker on there as well. Get the strut bolts torqued down to 224 pound-feet. Yeah, and then I'll get the tie rod castle nut torqued down to 36 pound-feet. Then I want to make sure that the hole aligns with the castle nut. And if it doesn't, then you're going to want to tighten it until it does. Never loosen it. So that way we can get a cotter pin in. And then we just put a cotter pin right through. Then we bend the cotter pin, just like that. And since we can't get a torque wrench in here, then we're just going to grab a regular key wrench and then tighten this down by hand until you just can't turn it anymore. If you run into a situation where if you go to turn this and then the ball joint turns with it, then you may need to get a key. I made this one, just grabbed one and cut it off. And all you have to do is just put it in here. And it holds it in place while you screw it in. And then I get the axle nut started, but not without having put some medium strength thread locker, as you can guess. And rotors are usually coated with an anti-rust agent. So it's good to grab some brake cleaner and spray these down and wipe it down with a shop towel or a rag in order to get all that anti-rust agent off. Then I put my new disc brake rotor on and then get a lug nut on there in order to keep it in place. And then I get some medium strength thread locker and then get started on the caliper bolts. Then I torque these down to 79 pound-feet. Then I grab my new ceramic brake pads and then get just a little bit of anti-seize on the back and on the brake hardware. You don't need a lot, just a small layer. This will make it easier to take out in the future. A spray down of brake clean for good measure. Then we get our freshly painted caliper on. Get some anti-seize on the bolts that go in the back, just a little bit, and then get those started. And then we torque these down to 45 pound-feet. And then you have somebody pump the brakes a few times and then torque the axle nut down to 166 pound-feet. And then get our cap to go on and place our cotter pin in. And now we're done. I gotta make sure to take this into an alignment and to also do a brake test at 5 miles per hour, 10 miles per hour, and 15 miles per hour. But thank you guys so much for watching. If you did enjoy the video, please be sure to like, subscribe, and share if you want to see this channel grow. And as always, please let me know what you guys think down in the comment section down below. Thank you guys so much for watching.